Hello, and welcome to my corner of the world. My name is Rochelle Brousseau, and you have found the Hollow Bone Collective. I have often heard people ask me, what does it mean to work with me? What does it mean to work within the realm of trauma release? And that is what we're here going to dive into today. So, as you have found this page and my work, I am the creator and facilitator of the Hallow Collective's work. This is where I'm a trauma release practitioner working with men, women, and children and finding the way to help you come back home into your body. It is my sole mission and truest intent to really help you navigate where it is things have not been able to been worked through, navigated, or you just felt like you couldn't deal with it in the timing in which they came up, to be able to move through what it is that maybe is now creating dysfunction, dissonance, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression in your bodies. And it is my job to help you facilitate and navigate how we can release that from the bodies. So, if you're here, you're obviously probably wanting to work with me, and there's a few different ways to do this. As a trauma release practitioner, this is not something that was one singular course that I have taken within my work of trauma release. This is a multitude of all the things that 9 different courses that I've taken, a nursing degree that I have received and worked towards, and being able to mesh all of those pieces of knowledge together, from somatic work to Chinese medicine to Western medicine, and into the spiritual energetics work of really understanding the body and all of the bodies, the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, and the spiritual energetic body, to be able to understand where the dissonance is coming from, finding a root cause of what it is that is creating dysfunction in your life, and help you come back home to live a more vital, thriving life. I often say that we can be in survival, but we don't have to stay there. And that is a huge premise and foundation of my work, is really understanding how to help your body come out of the sympathetic fight, flight, fawn response, where traumatic events, whether they are big T or little t traumas, whether they are a car accident, whether it is the loss and the grief of something or someone in our life, or whether they're just the small things that have built up over time that weren't so small to our bodies and weren't so small to our psyches. And so that is my job and my role as a trauma release practitioner, is to help you navigate and find some of these pieces and places where you may not even be conscious that these traumas are sitting and staying in your bodies. And that is the overall umbrella of my work. It is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. When I started this work 7 years ago, it was something that I started doing for my own self. I took 2 different trainings to help and navigate something within my own journey. I was diagnosed with precancerous cells in my uterus, and after a year and a half of medication, surgeries, and many different appointments, I was an anomaly. They had no answers for me. The condition in which I had was something that most menopausal women would experience, not someone who is 21 years old. And they didn't really have answers. I started to lose that trust within myself. I started to lose that trust within my body. And I started to really question what would come next. And that is where I came to what I call one of my rock bottoms in life. I grew up in a very spiritual home growing up, and it got to a point where my mom said to me, Rochelle, maybe this is something where you need to look from this from a different perspective. And that is where I started to go back to my roots. I started to go back to the energy workers that I had grown up around as a child. I started to dive into the different layers of trauma, of the mental mind, the emotional body, and also the physical body. And I started to peel back layers of things that had piled up over time, grief that I hadn't processed, emotional trauma and mental overwhelm that I hadn't dealt with. All of these things that, as I move through childhood, as I move through my nursing school, all of these things I felt like I couldn't deal with because there was no time, or it wasn't the right time, or it wasn't appropriate, or I shouldn't have been grieving as much as I was. All of these stories that I had created in my mind had created these pockets of trauma in my body on top of the childhood experiences that were already existing there. And there's a part of this that as time went on, my body could compromise, my body could compensate for those things, but it got to a breaking point, and that was the diagnosis of the precancer cells, where my body brought me to a threshold. It brought me to a crossroads of saying, you either have to choose to continue on this way and continue making me put all of these things into a system that is already full, or you can choose to start to heal some of these things. You can choose to figure out a way forward. You can choose a way to let go. And it was my spirit guides said to me, Rochelle, you need to choose your hard. Either path is hard. Going through further treatment, doing further biopsies, doing these different things is hard, but so is healing. And you have to choose which outcome you want at the end of the day. And so that started this journey of me taking my body talk training. I started working with some teachers and mentors within the energetic world. And I started to find a lot of answers. I started to feel the shifts in my body that I had been hoping and praying for a year and a half. And as that evolved, I started to see it in my nursing career, where lots of the things that we just couldn't figure out for patients, the things that we either cut out, cut off, or bandage up and hope someone else can figure out, started to become very clear, started to become very obvious. And I started to see how much our entire world has trauma that is undealt with, and the representation of that within the body. And I started to question, what is my role here? How do I have all this knowledge that I found for myself? And how can I just keep that to myself? And that is where it started, the journey of building what the Hallow Collective now is 7 years later. And it's something that is a huge, huge part of my soul. I truly believe the Hallow is a part of me as a soul. I truly believe that my work is a part of who I am, and that I'm a vessel for this work to move through. And so when I feel people find me, I truly believe that it's not by coincidence. I truly believe that all people that find this corner of the world, the corner where my work evolves and lives and is shared, is something that you are led here, that something within your soul, something within your spirit team, something within creation has led you here, and it's not just by happen chance. And so if you found this corner of the world and you're watching this video, I want to say welcome. Welcome to a place where you get to begin a journey of healing, of discovery, of remembrance, a coming home. And that will forever be one of the most beautiful places that we can come as a human body and a human soul, to be able to know that this is our home, that our body is our home, and it will be our first home and our last home. And this home is constantly a navigational system for us, beckoning us back home, beckoning us to really find what it is that is important to us, and to really understand that all of our life's experiences, all of our journeys, all of the hardships and challenges that we have moved through and journeyed through have been for something. That there is nothing that doesn't have medicine in it for ourselves. It is a matter of finding that, whether it is things we need to release, whether it is a place we need to return to, whether it is a deep remembrance that we need to lean into. There is medicine in all of the things that we have found difficult to navigate. And each of those pieces and each part of your story is there to deepen you within yourself, to really find what it is to be happy, what it means to be fulfilled, what it feels like to be at peace, and not just our placated, superficial versions of this within society, where we distract from our life, where we try to avoid our life, where we need to escape our life. What are the really deep versions of that happiness, that peace, that fulfillment, that contentment, that bliss that we are looking for? And we cannot get to those places if we are not within our bodies, if we are not connected to ourselves, if we are constantly living our life for other people, or if we are trying to outrun something from our past, or trying to anticipate things from the future. And that is the work that we do here. So, if this is something that you are feeling the call to, you can head on over to my offerings page. There is a multitude of different things that I do from the trauma release work, which moves under three umbrellas of the release, the return, and the remembrance. Each of those pieces are purely and uniquely the work that I do. These are not something that was a training that I took. This is a beautiful tapestry of all of the work that I've done and trained in, mixed into these different sessions. A trauma release session with me is unique to others, and it is something that I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be able to offer. You can also see that the body talk sessions that I offer are also an offering, and they are just as potent and powerful. And that is where it is strictly just the body talk and receival from your higher self and high council team that comes into those sessions. You will also see the Hallowed, which is our Sacred Women Gathering group that is online or in person. And I also offer children's sessions because our beautiful children that come here are here to be the evolution of ourselves and evolution of the world around us. And they need sometimes support in order to help them get where their soul is trying to go. And if there is something that you are looking for within a sacred ceremony, whether this is a welcoming of a mother into motherhood through a womb blessing, whether this is a bridal opening, a mother and child opening, there are different ways that we can honor these sacred places within your journey and your life. And that's under the private ceremonies tab. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of a further understanding of the work that I do. And you can check out some of the other videos of really specifically talking about what a trauma release session looks like. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a beautiful day.